Hello, everyone. I hope and I pray that you're doing okay. Many of you have experienced loss, great losses in many cases, and many of us in our church community are reeling along with our neighbors through those doors at Centennial Christian School with the deaths of 2 elementary school students and their mother last week in a car crash. And one of the things that we do in our grief is lament, and the Psalms are a place for lament. It might be helpful for you to Google Psalms of Lament and read a few. But the psalm that's probably closest to my heart, that's a psalm of lament, is Psalm 13, which includes the verse, "Look on me and answer, Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep in death." Nicholas Waltersdorf, many years ago, wrote this book. It's called Lament for a Son. And he invites us into a lament. He wrote this lament to honor his own son who died in a mountain climbing accident in Austria in his 25th year. And he wrote it, Waltersdorf says he wrote it to voice his grief. He shares that he learned, to his surprise, that in the particularity of his own grief and his own lament, there is universality. Many who have lost children have written to Waltersdorf, but many who've lost other relatives have also written him as well, along with those who've experienced various forms of loss in forms other than the deaths of relatives or friends. And to be honest, this book has really shaped my own lament and my care for others in their grief and loss. If you're around in our worship space this past Sunday, we shared our own grief and loss in our own ways. There were some tears. I had a few moments personally where I had a hard time saying a few things. And in part, Waltersdorf puts his finger on it when he writes, "It's so wrong, so profoundly wrong, for a child to die before its parents." I mean, it's hard enough to bury our parents, but we kind of expect. Our parents belong to our past, but our children belong to our future. We do not visualize our future without them. How can I bury my son, my future, one of the next in line? He was meant to bury me. And then elsewhere, Waltersdorf does this reminiscing and this kind of thinking. He says, "I do not try to put my grief behind me, to get over it, to forget it. I do not try to disown it. If someone asks, 'Who are you? Tell me about yourself,' I say not immediately, but shortly, 'I am one who lost a son.' That loss determines my identity. Not all my identity, but much of it. It belongs within my story. I struggle indeed to go beyond merely owning my grief toward owning it redemptively. But I will not and cannot disown it. I shall remember, Eric, lament is part of life." A friend apparently told Waltersdorf that he had given a whole bunch of copies of his book, right, Lament for a Son, to all of his children. "Why'd you do that?" Waltersdorf asked him. "Because," his friend said, "it's a love song." Waltersdorf says that took him aback. But then he concluded, yes, it is a love song. Every lament is a love song. And then Waltersdorf asked this question: will love songs one day no longer be laments? Friends in Christ, as you wrestle through grief and loss and lament, may you also say with the psalmist, if not today, then one day, "I will trust in your unfailing love." The peace of Christ be with you all.